Alright, what's up everybody? Doing a little tier list video today. Vaporwave albums tier list, more so like the classics of the classics. I'm going to be taking a look at 24 albums that I think represent the genre as a whole pretty well, even though I'm going to put some of these in like a C category, of course, since it's the tier list and it's there. They're all obviously super important, hence why I chose these as the 24 albums in the first place. So yeah, a list like this could be filled with hundreds of albums to properly make up the Vaporwave scene after everything that's come out within it. And I'm sure I'm even missing, a couple that you would think are a must-have for a list like this. So I totally invite you to rip me apart in the comments below. Feel free to let me know what you think I missed. And maybe I could do another tier list video like this in the future. Couple quick rules before I get into this tier list, what I'm kind of basing everything on. Only one alias per artist allowed. So you'll see that there may be an artist that has 2 releases on here. But since they're under different aliases, I decided to kind of give it a pass. Where I'm going to be putting each album in this tier list is based mostly on my personal love for them, but also how much of an impact I think they've had on the scene, their replayability, the artwork, and what the artist has done going forward from the point of dropping set release. There'll be times on here where I'll have a release that I don't even think is the artist's best work, but in regards to like importance, I'll choose that one in their discography over something else they have. A lot of this, like I said, it's my personal connection with these albums, and it's what I believe define the scene. I think this right here is just the perfect palette. I think this kind of captures everything pretty well. Before we begin, you know the deal. If you're always on the hunt for interesting pieces of music and the stories behind them, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn all notifications on so you never miss a future upload. One more thing real quick, big shout out. Vapor95, if you want to get 15% off your order over at their awesome shop. They got all cool Vaporwave merch, apparel, all that stuff. Use code PAD15. The link that automatically applies the discount is in the description of this video down below. So yes, let's begin. Let's get right into this. Right off the bat, we're going into the Future Funk territory. We got Young Bae's Bae, the first of the Bae series. I think he's up to like Bae 5 now. This is some of the most classic Future Funk out there. Really simple stuff, and it's kind of cool to see where Young Bae has gone to this point. Like, he's really doing some big things, and to kind of go back to this release, you really see how like simple and cheap at times Future Funk could be, especially back in the day, which I love. I love that charm. I love when things are really simple and kind of disposable. That's like a big thing I love in music. Young Bae's Bae was that for Future Funk. Like I said, it captured a lot of the early Future Funk scene before it began to transition into more of like French house, new disco that you see a lot nowadays. I don't even really see the word Future Funk get thrown around that much anymore, and I think it's because just the sound has evolved from what it was known for back then, just looping a city pop loop like 82 times in a row in a song with some drums and then fading it in and out. I think this thing was made in like 2 weeks from what I remember. I think I talked to Young Bae about it once before. There's definitely way better Future Funk projects out there, despite my love for simple projects, so I would recommend a lot of other stuff, but it's crazy to see how far Young Bae has gone. But in regards to just like a release in general, I'm gonna start this off with the C tier. Like I said, being in C on this list is not a bad thing. This is what I think are just the most iconic releases to come out of the scene. In the grand scheme of things, Young Bae has really gone farther past this release. There's way better Future Funk out there. I don't really listen to this thing that much anymore. I don't know if you do, but I really don't. So I'm gonna throw that in C. Let's get this started with a C. All right, let's move on. We are going to Christ No Lives Matter. My boy John Zabelli, owner of Business Casual, one of my favorite labels. Great internet label, awesome electronic music, really nice diverse sound, and one of the most consistent labels dropping shit out there. So definitely follow Business Casual if you can. But this is No Lives Matter. That he really captures a jarring, heavy style that I personally love seeing explored in Vaporwave. It's big, it's apocalyptic. While many immediately aim at Death's Dynamic Shroud for bringing the heavier, corrupted sample style to the Vaporwave scene, don't count out Christ, because this is an example of that. Judas Inside and Trudging on Emotionless, absolute banger tracks off of here, from the artwork to the sound, and it's really great stuff for those looking for something heavy. Let's throw this in. Let's go with B. Let's go with B for this. High B. We're gonna keep you over here, Zabelli. We're gonna keep you in the high B. All right, next up, we got Internet Club, Vanishing Vision. Does it get more classic than this? Vanishing Vision, simple, lush vaporwave that I never get sick of back from 2012. Internet Club was another artist who was right there at the beginning. A lot of people forget. They get overshadowed by like Mac Plus and Echo Jams, but Internet Club's been here all along. Don't count them out. The artwork, I love the artwork. I'm gonna make this a little bigger here. Can I make this bigger? All right, let's make it a little bigger. Look at that. Look at that beauty of an artwork. Real VHS, you know, shopping 24/7, 365 in like a neon Tokyo. I love it. I love all the colors on this thing. I love like the faded kind of texture on it. Really captures the simplicity of vaporwave back in the day. It's timeless. I could listen to a lot of Internet Club, and releases like this are just so nice and relaxing to put on. A definite classic. Might not stick out for many people just because, like I said, it gets overshadowed by Floral Shop and Echo Jams, but let's throw this in B. If you like simple vaporwave, this is right here, right Hizzle. This is a good one. Next up, here we go. We're going with a real beast here. This is News at 11, Cat System Corp. There's so many Cat Corp releases I could have picked for this one, and I was split between this and Palm Mall, but at the end of the day, I really think News at 11 is his most iconic release. Cat Corp over the years really further pushing the Mallsoft sound and kind of making it really popular. But News at 11 is a defining piece of vaporwave work, both in an audio sense and narratively. The album gets a lot of shit sometimes, I think, you know, for being really simple and monetizing in a way with all the physicals that came out for it on the whole tragedy of 9/11. But I'll tell you this, as someone who lived right over the water from New York, you know, I was right next to it and experienced all the craziness of that day. I know people who passed away. I find the album to really capture just the unbelievableness of that event, of that day in a way I can't explain. Like, I was 9, I think, when it happened, and the comfort in these jazz samples were kind of what I felt, because I remember just like being in another room away from the parents. My cousins all came over that day, and like all the kids were in one room, and we kind of just had like cartoons on, and we had our Game Boys or whatever. So you were just like distracted from the real scariness that was going on, and I think this album does that really well. So it's like a time capsule in a way. I find it to be a true piece of art. That's just my take on it, though, but I find this to be a super important vaporwave album. Pushed the narrative, did it well. It's haunting, it's weird, it's eerie. I gotta throw this in S, honestly. I'm gonna give this the first S. Cat Corp, News at 11, absolute classic, and I think it deserves to be at the top. Next up, we got my boy. We got the big dude, Equip. I Dreamed of a Palace in the Sky. This is, if you love video games and you love vaporwave, it doesn't get better than this. This is a really awesome drop that mixed like the vaporwave vibe with classic JRPG, RPG video game inspired music and bleeps and bloops and sound effects, and it just builds this gigantic overworld in a musical album. Gorgeous album art from the one and only Keith Rankin of Death's Dynamic Shroud and Orange Milk Records. This album really set off Equip and his growth in the scene. I remember when it came out on 100% Electronica, that whole vinyl release looked great. It was awesome, and it was one of the first releases on the label that I could remember that really showcased 100% Electronica's wanting to put out really well-made physicals. They really pushed Equip at the time, and it kind of paid off because he really does have an awesome following, and he really seems to be killing it, which is really, really cool. I do think, though, the true defining Equip release is Cursebreaker X, where he really showcased everything about what he loved. But I Dreamed of a Palace in the Sky is where it all began, at least for me with Equip, and I think for many others. Really, really great stuff for those who love video game music and vaporwave. Let's throw this in the B tier. Alrighty, next up we got Surfing Deep Fantasy, another inevitable classic that mixed live instrumentation, you know, a band with concepts and the looping and the sampling and the production of vaporwave. This was one of the first releases I heard in the vaporwave scene when I first started getting into it. It's a real like humid, murky texture on the whole thing, and it like the whole album sounds like it's sweating, if that makes sense. It's just like a hot summer day in the 80s. You know, the sun's going down and you're on a boat in Miami or something. And who doesn't want that, you know, scenario in their life? So, yeah, classic album. It's more early vaporwave music that fused the idea of vaporwave with an actual band, like I said, which I hope to see more of. I love when you see that in the scene. And I can't really remember the last time I listened to this thing. It's definitely been a while. That's just me, though. I can't really think of a reason why this would be in a B and C, though, because a lot of people love this thing. So let's go with A. I think it was pretty awesome at the time. kind of mixing a band with Vaporwave. And I don't think a release like that mixed the two, I don't think has stuck out as much as Deep Fantasy has after all this time. So I think that's deserves the A spot. Let's throw Deep Fantasy over there. Also, this is another one which is really nice artwork. See, maybe it's good I'm doing this in Photoshop because I can make everything nice and big. I can't do that on that tier list website. Look, I could do this. We can make this real big. Gotta love it. All right, go back over there. Okay, we got a release, at least one release for every single category, but we got a long way to go. We definitely got a long way to go. Next up, talking about 100% electronica, George Clanton Slide. Really put George as an artist on the map, obviously. This thing got a whole lot of recognition, so much coverage when it came out. It was on Fantano's channel, and then that led to the interview with Fantano, the David Bowie of Vaporwave. I loved it when it came out, and I think it's going to get even more recognized as years go by and George continues to grow his sound and his label. It's really inspirational for artists who try to blend more of a chillwave production style, or maybe they're they made a Vaporwave release once, and now they're forever known to be a Vaporwave artist because they did that, which happens a lot, which I don't think is a big deal at all, but I know it could get to some people. And this just goes to show that George, took what he was known for at least, and expanded on it, brought his audience with him, and dropped a really great, unique piece of music that was different from a lot of the stuff he made in the past. I'm going to give this an A as well. I think this really, pushed George even further. He was big at the time, even before this in the scene, but this really set him off. It's a really good example, something to look at if you're an artist who's struggling with this idea where you feel like you're stuck and you've made Vaporwave and you want to make other things maybe and you can't escape that, you think. Just look at Slide, listen to Slide, and maybe it'll give you a little motivation, because it's anything's possible. All right, following up, this is the whole two different aliases from the same artist. We're going to go with Esprit's Virtua.zip, a really early release from George. I did a whole video on this thing if you want to check it out. I actually got George to join me in the video too, so big shout out to George. Thanks for that. After this release, George really chiseled his style after this one. And although it's an important release and like a fire starter for the vibe that was eventually fully seen on Slide, I think there's just better things George has done. And I'm going to put this in C. Once again, no hate at all. Just, I think there's way more out there. If you're looking at like essential George Clanton, you got to put Slide over it. Yeah, so we're going to put Virtua.zip in C tier. All right, next up, going back to Future Funk. Macross 8299, A Million Miles Away. Ultimate party starter Future Funk. I love this thing. I love this thing when I first found it. I still listen to it a lot. I love the original and the revised artwork, which I'll just pop on the screen right now as well. Yeah, I love that. Look at that artwork. That's gorgeous. I don't want to fall off that, though. That's a Mario Kart, ruining your first place right there. Kind of road, kind of street, which I don't fuck with that. But yeah, it's classic Future Funk. It's timeless. It captures the early scene really well. Sounds really great even after all these years. And it's easily Macross 8299's most important release in the Future Funk scene. I'm going to give this an S tier. I think this is maybe the most important Future Funk release of all time. Many will say hit vibes, which we're going to get to later on in this video. It's down there below. But it's hard for me to say Hit Vibes is Future Funk fully. It's like the perfect blend of like classic Vapor and Future Funk. So when I think of Future Funk, I don't really think of Hit Vibes in a way, but I do. I don't know. Because of that, I would give A Million Miles Away as like the #1 spot for just the most important Future Funk release ever. Next up, we got Luxury Elite World Class, another monster classic. What is there to even say about it that hasn't been said already? I really set Luxury Elite on the map. Classic sample flips on here like SWAK, Attitude, Strut, genre-defining album. Here's the thing I would say about World Class, and Lux in general. She has released so much over the years and has carried that same classic Vapor vibe throughout pretty much her whole discography, which I personally love the idea of. I think it's really cool when an artist has one sound in a way throughout a whole discography. I also love change along the years, but there's something about like knowing you're going to listen to an artist and you have hours and hours of the same vibe you're going for, which is Lux, in my opinion. There's so many other releases on there that could be just as good. I think they are just as good as World Class, but I think just this one with the artwork and the vibe at the time with classic Vapor, I just think this is the one that hit. And this is the one that kind of sticks out now because of that. I think if you take, you know, the time to go through the whole Lux catalog, you'll really find some other great stuff in there. So let's, here we go. Controversial, maybe. I think a lot of people will put this in A, maybe even S, but let's go B. And I'm just saying B because I think it kind of just stuck out at the time. And I think many other Lux Elite releases can stick out. It's just this was the one that did. I'm going to put it as B because I don't want people to, you know, if I put it at S or A and then they listen to that and just that's it. I'm going to put it at B because I want them to know, like, there's more than just world class for Lux. Don't sleep on Luxury Elite, especially if you like that classic Vapor style. So we're going to go with world class as a B. You know what? No. Let's put it at A. We'll put it at low A. I can't put world class at B. What am I thinking? I can't do that. That's crazy. All right, we're going to put world class at A. Eyeliner by Now. This has got to be one of my favorite album covers in the scene. I love that thing. That's science textbook from 6th grade written all over it. Iconic album cover. I love that seafoam green color, that teal color, whatever it's called. This is a Utopian virtual defining release. If y'all don't know what Utopian virtual is, I did a whole video on that subgenre, if we want to even call it a subgenre or just a certain niche or style or whatever, I don't know, of Vaporwave. That video was out. I did that a long time ago. Definitely check it out when you get a chance. By Now, it's funky, it's synthy, infectious MIDI compositions that just make you feel like a character in The Sims. Your whole world just covered in shiny, polished, 3D rendered polygon furniture and wallpaper. It's really fun, but I think this is another one where I think there's just other eyeliner releases that are better in general, but I think this is the one that sticks out for most people, so I put it on this list. LARP of Luxury is just so nice and really captures that abundantly rich and luxurious texture and energy of Utopian Virtual. Also, Drop Shadow, I think, is eyeliner's best work. But in regards to defining Vaporwave albums, I gotta put By Now. Let's give it a B. Like I said, listen to the rest of Eyeliner's catalog, but By Now, definitely classic. All right, before we continue, I just wanted to let y'all know, if you didn't know already, the Club Chennington Selects Volume 3 music compilation is now open. This is a patrons-only music project that will be premiered live on this channel at a future date. The last 2 premiere parties were so much fun, and I can't wait to showcase what you got and to dive into some more fantastic music of yours again. If you make music and want to get in on the compilation, have your music here on the channel, as well as help the channel out and support what I do, consider becoming a patron today. The link is in the description of this video down below. Cheers and thank you to all of you who have become a patron, past or present. It really does mean the world to me, and it really does help a lot. So yeah, thanks. All right, here we go. Late Night Delight, the absolute monster classic. Luxury Elite, same Pepsi. The Split. I've been saying this forever. There needs to be more Vaporwave Split albums. Those are always so much fun. And I don't know why a lot of people don't do them anymore. It would be really cool to see more of those. This is an unparalleled classic, genre defining, from the artwork to the texture of the tracks to the sample flips to the collab. Luxury Elite and St. Pepsi. Does it get better than that? Probably the most Vaporwave hits to ever come out of one single album, I would say. Undeniable S tier. I'm sorry, News at 11. There's really no order at the top. Like, you're just in S tier, A tier, whatever. But, like, I gotta put Late Night Delight at the top. This album is a Vaporwave. This is it. All right, another classic. Groceries, yes, we're open. Mallsoft. What is there to say about this album that hasn't been said already? If you hung around my channel for a while, you know this is my personal favorite Vaporwave album of all time. I just think it delivers everything that Vaporwave is. The idea that the music and the artwork can just warp you to this large, empty area. In this case, a grocery store or a supermarket really early in the morning or really late at night when there's nobody there, and just delivers that setting throughout the entire album perfectly. This was also probably the most requested physical release I've ever seen in the Vaporwave community. Geometric Lullaby, one of my favorite labels, put this as well as a couple of other groceries releases out on vinyl recently, and the legacy of this release still stands the test of time to this day, and is always, I think, just an essential release that is always thrown around when people talk about Vaporwave classics. Hard for me to not put this in anything other than an S tier, honestly, especially since it's my favorite Vaporwave album ever. How am I not going to put it there? I just think it does exactly what Vaporwave is supposed to do, and it is deserving to be in the top of the top. All right, Vape Error. I always said Vaporer, and then everyone corrected me saying it was Vape Error. I think I actually asked Jeff once, how do you pronounce it properly? And he said Vape Error, so I was like, oh shit, I'm sorry. But yeah, Vape Error, an essential vapor trap classic, and I would say the most recognizable release easily from Vape Error. I think if you say the name Vape Error, everyone immediately thinks of Mana Pool. It's aquatic, it's elegant, it's surprisingly simple at times, very clean and smooth, and still an album I spin all the time on vinyl. I love the entire tracklist dedication to this subconscious story that builds itself up throughout the sounds, and the computer narrator that pops in here and there. And I feel like you don't see much vapor trap anymore these days, which is kind of unfortunate. Maybe it's just me. Maybe there is a lot of stuff coming out and I just don't know about it. But when it comes to the tag of vapor trap, I immediately think of this and Blank Banshee Zero, which I will obviously get into a little bit as well. It's down there below. I think this is a clean A. It's fun. I find it to be timeless, and definitely though, check out more of Vape Error's work if you get the chance. But like I said, I think when you think of Vape Error, I think of Mana Pool. James Ferraro, Far Side Virtual. Here we go. Another classic, undeniable classic. Ferraro builds a hyper corporate world. The sounds feel like a bunch of like the latest phone and music tech player just like having a conversation from the late 2000s. Like imagine all the devices, like the early iPhone touches and MP3 players just sitting at a table smoking some cigars and like playing poker. That's what this album is. Another just ridiculously out of this world album cover. Everything about it feels so purposefully empty. Think of that comment I made about The Sims before, but Far Side Virtual is like you took the disc out of the game system while it's still on. Remember that? Like when you had the PlayStation, you took the disc out while you were still playing it, and some of the assets in the game, especially the audio, would just like stop working fully. Like it would still be playing, but it wouldn't properly be playing. There'd be like some sounds missing or whatever. There's that sinister touch on this album that I don't think many have been able to replicate in the Vaporwave scene. This thing is just a piece of art. S tier, an album that just delivers that never-ending corporate takeover in audio form perfectly and set the stage for many to attempt the same as well in their music. 2814, Birth of a New Day, the mega fusion of slushwave and dream punk, collaboration project between HKE and Telepath. And right off the bat, this might be my favorite artwork like ever for a release. I love the colors. I love just the intoxicating purple and pink spread throughout this thing. If you love cyberpunk shit, this is like a staple for that. I don't really listen to this much anymore these days, and not taking anything away from it, but I think many other artists in dream punk and slushwave that have really mastered the sound and the style, and it's just evolved since this release. It's definitely a classic though. It's a release that everyone wants on damn vinyl all the time. But yeah, it was kind of genre defining too. It set the the scene going forward for a lot of dream punk, a lot of slushwave, and a lot of vaporwave in a way. And it's hard to not put this as like an A tier as well. Yeah, Birth of a New Day. Let's put that in the A. All right, here we go. This thing, New Deluxe Life, Liberated from the World. This album is literally the kid in the back of the car in the Babadook that's screaming. It's a project that just showcased, all you need to do is make some crazy looking track list, rip a VHS frame for the artwork, and just make the sound as broken as it possibly can get, and it will get traction. I respect the album for what it is. I think it's cool. It's odd and it's weird, and it just feels wrong when you stumble upon it on its Bandcamp page. Like you found a anti-piracy screen for an old video game or something. I love the charm, but come on. I gotta throw this in the C tier. There's no reason to listen to this after like listening to it for a minute. It's a true novelty item though. I'll give it that. And we all love to have it around, so we're gonna put Liberated from the World in the C tier. All right, St. Pepsi, hip vibes, classic on classic on classic. Bangers on the whole album, the go-to beloved St. Pepsi release, and even though it's hard, in my opinion, to dismiss Mannequin Challenge as the best St. Pepsi release of all time, everybody, myself included, just loves hit vibes. It's timeless, it's perfect for parties, it's the superhero, it's saving the day all the time. You could use it while you're working out. You can use it while you're cleaning dishes, dancing, whatever it is. Perfect for parties. It's such an energetic album from start to end. It's the album, like I was saying before when I was talking about A Million Miles Away, it's perfectly split between like classic Vapor sound and future funk. It doesn't just rely on speeding up old Japanese city pop samples, even though there are some on here. And it's also not as slow, you know, like a slow burn of other classic Vapor at the time, or things like Winter Circle, for example, from St. Pepsi. This is just like the perfect middle ground, and I think that's why it hit with so many people. For collectors of vinyl, this was pretty much the holy grail of all Vaporwave physical releases for a good while, until Car Park Records finally did a repress of it a couple years ago. If you know someone who loves Vaporwave, you know they love Hit Vibes. Undeniable S tier. The pinnacle of St. Pepsi's unreal 2013 year of releases. Really look at, you know, what he was putting out at the time. That might be, I would argue that is the best prime of any Vaporwave artist ever. And Hit Vibes just led all of it. Blank Banshee Zero. Another album loaded with hits. Vapor Trap. Iconic album cover. The most recognizable Vapor Trap release of all time. Probably one of the most recognizable Vaporwave album covers of all time. I would say like right below Floral Shop and Echo Jams. Blank Banshee releases. They're super fun. I love how every release after this one had its own charm and personality in its own way. This one being the first really hammers home the stereotypical Vapor tropes, computer startup sounds, Nintendo 64 samples, super fun drums. But in my opinion, I think Blank Banshee has released way better stuff, way better material since then. Mega, I believe, is easily his best work for me. I think there's more to Blank Banshee Zero that you should definitely check out. Don't just stop on this album because you saw that Bart Simpson thing on YouTube, and then this song was from here, and then that's all you listen to. No, keep going. It definitely gets even better. Definitely an important start for Vapor Trap. So I'm gonna give it an A, but I want to give it a B just because I think Blank Banshee has done way better. All right, let's put it at B. I feel like we're starting to get too top heavy on this list. I'm sorry. Very important, but I think, you know, don't stop with Blank Banshee Zero, and I want to keep it in B because of that. Just keep going after it. There's a lot of good stuff. All right, the magnum opus of signalwave right here. Infinity Frequencies Computer Trilogy. The artwork I have right here, though, is just one of the 3 releases in the series. This is Computer Death, but this pick is for the Computer Trilogy as a whole. Infinity Frequencies' 3-part computer trilogy shows how riveting and cinematic a piece of music can be with only super simple sample work. The aesthetic and dread is at an all-time high with this one, and most of Infinity Frequencies' work in general. And the producer's ability to just pick the perfect samples to play with is amazing. So easy to get lost in all these releases. It definitely isn't for everyone, though, especially those who might get bored with the concept of pretty much just super simple sample flips, but I love a good story and setting in music releases, and no one really does it better than Infinity Frequencies. Everything is always mysterious and haunting, and when you listen to it late at night, it genuinely feels like someone is about to put their hand on your shoulder. It's creepy. Very significant in establishing the Infinity Frequency style, but I do think there are better releases in his discography as a whole. He definitely honed in on what he does best as the years went on, most notably Between Two Worlds and his most recent release, which just came out, Exit Simulation, which I think is excellent. Really, really good. I'm going to put Computer Trilogy in the B tier because of that. I think it's another artist that, you know, they're really known for this one, but there's a lot of really good stuff, recent stuff too, that does the mood, and everything is executed, in my opinion, to just an even higher level. So yeah, definitely check out the 2 videos I've done on Infinity Frequencies when you get a chance if you want to learn a little bit more about the artist and everything that's so magical about them. Prism Corp Virtual Enterprises Home. I love this album so much. Oh, this is like a top 5 favorite Vaporwave album of mine. I loved playing The Sims growing up, and I always found the world of The Sims to be so eerie. Like, everything is just so perfectly polished and shiny, and all the fruits and objects in your house just smooth and perfectly rendered. Vast fields of green grass beyond the house you built for yourself. And the MIDI-based compositions Vectroid did on this thing are just, like, they make you laugh. They're so good. Infectious and indulged into this concept of the perfect home. The Prism Corp releases are beautiful, and were another alias that showed the immense and diverse talents Vectroid has under that whole discography. I still listen to this thing all the time. It's a really nice length of an album too, and it blends perfectly into the other Prism Corp release, Clear Skies. So there's a ton of music to go through in just these 2 releases alone. Many know Vectroid for Macintosh Plus, another alias we're obviously going to discuss at the end. And I think that just prevents this from being found for a lot of people, maybe for like a casual surface level Vaporwave explorer. But for those who found themselves a little comfy home in this corner of internet music, you know this release is a must listen, so I gotta give it S. Death's Dynamic Shroud, I'll Try Living Like This. The chaotic, the beautiful, emotional, powerful music collective known as Death's Dynamic Shroud, and their influential release of I'll Try Living Like This back from 2015 was the DDS release that we all knew they were capable of after the string of releases that started to build upon their aesthetic, themes, and energy we've all come to know and love currently in the DDS sound today. Using a handful of Vaporwave tropes, but blending it all into this scary yet sensual style at times was very unique at the time, and who can forget that iconic album art. This is a perfect example of album art that just captures the personality of the sound in the album perfectly. Those glowing colors are always on my mind when I'm listening to these tracks that are on I'll Try Living Like This. And because of that, I mean, this is iconic. S tier. How can I not put I'll Try Living Like This in anything other than S tier? Essential release for you to listen to see the boundaries that were pushed and could be pushed in the Vaporwave sound, and an unforgettable release that will only become more and more popular as Death's Dynamic Shroud continue to gain recognition in the music world. All right, we're down to the last 2, Echo Jams. Chuck Person's Echo Jams Volume 1. I had to save the 2 most recognizable Vaporwave releases of all time at the end, of course. First up, we're going with what many consider to be, myself included, the first true Vaporwave album ever made, Daniel Lopatin's Chuck Person's Echo Jams Volume 1. This is another album I just did a whole video on, huge breakdown, my last video of this on my channel, so go check that out if you want to learn more. But to sum it up here really quick, Daniel Lopatin's one-time Chuck Person alias and Echo Jams took the best, juiciest parts of a song and loop that sample with various amounts of delay, reverb, and echoing to create a whole new sound style entirely, which he called Echo Jams. Vaporwave wouldn't be what it is today without this release. However, I really don't listen to this album very often. I go more into that in that video, so I'm gonna get a little crazy here. I know this is kind of controversial. I'm throwing this in a B tier. In the grand scheme of things, I think this album did what it did and what it was supposed to do. It got the wheels turning for the genre, but now it kind of just chills in the back as a relic in a way that you revisit every once in a while to see how it all started. And here we go, last but not least, Macintosh Plus Floral Shop. What is there to say about this release that hasn't been said already? Classic on classic, holds the most famous Vaporwave track of all time, a wonderful change in vibe between the side A on the album and the side B on the album. This is an album I still listen to all the time. There is such a unique energy in it that many other releases just couldn't accomplish for years. It's the first Vaporwave release I and many others discovered and just caused them to go further down the rabbit hole to all the other releases out there in the scene. Beautiful artwork, eerie and unsettling sample flips that bring you right to the late 80s and early 90s. Floral Shop will forever be known as the Vaporwave album. From the memes to the praise and everything else in between, this thing stood the test of time, still playable today, still sounds new in my opinion, and we're going to put it as an S tier as well. Like I said, there's really no order here. So don't think like I like News at 11 more than I'll Try Living Like This or Home more than A Million Miles Away or anything like that. I'm just, putting this in each category. Boom. There we got it. Look at this. I did a tier list video, everybody. Did you like this? Let me know. Maybe we'll do more tier list videos in the future. Give me some ideas for some tier lists in the comments below. And let me know what you think. Give me your take. Rip me apart. Agree with me. I don't know. Give me albums that I missed. Let me know in the comments below. And I will definitely be jumping in the comments section to hear what y'all got to say. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Check out my video here that explores more beginnings of the Vaporwave genre, or here for a deep dive into Japan's most dangerous band. And I'll see you over there. Cheers, and thank you so much for watching. Much love, your boy, and we'll talk soon. Pad Chennington.